right. So this is week 2 of a 4-week series on RAD, which is short for radical. And we're flashing back to the 90s, where everything was pretty rad, especially the fashion. So, I tried to dress as 90s as I could. Sorry, threw out all my 90s stuff. But I'm going to show you some pretty rad fashion trends from the 90s. So we're going to go through them really quick. And what I want you to do is to vote on whether you like these or not. So if you see a style that you like, then I want you to stand. If not, you just stay seated. All right? So the first one is neon. If you think neon should be in style, I want you to stand up. If you think neon should be in style, stand up. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. All right, we got a few people who like neon. All right, all right. Next one, animal print. Animal print. Wow, people are groaning. Should animal print be in style? Come on, man. Guess not an actual animal fur print, like just a print. All right, next one, plaid. All right, all right. All right, some people have plaid on right now. They got to be standing, all right? So there we go for plaid. This next one, I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but MC Hammer pants. So do you guys know who MC Hammer is? He's that, right? But he had these it's even baggier than those. It used to come all the way like this, and they were super, super baggy. So, all right, we have a few people who think those should be in style. Next one, bucket hats. All right, bucket hats. Okay, Adriana's not standing, and she literally just got a bucket hat. How come you're not wearing your bucket hat today, Adriana? Wow. How come you're not standing, Adriana? You have a bucket hat. Wow. All right, next style, denim everything. So if you, the Canadian tuxedo, what? All right, you're from the 90s, buddy. Sit down. All right, the next one, tinted glasses. All right, tinted glasses. All right. Some of these things are actually coming back in style because that's the thing. Your parents will always tell you this when it comes to throwing something out. They're like, if you hold on to it long enough, it will come back in style. And it's because we're so old that we're seeing it come back in style. Next one, jelly sandals. Yeah, this one was a little crazy, and people were wearing them, and their feet were like sweating like crazy. It was not a good look, especially if you had the clear plastic ones. It was a problem. It's a problem. Next one, windsuits. So just like a tracksuit. Oh yeah, me and Clark, man, I got you, baby. Tracksuits used to be so in style back in the 90s. All right, next one. Fanny Packs. Come on. See, Fanny Packs is an example of something that was in style, way out of style. Now it's back in style, and some people are like, no, it's out of style. So is it in? Is it out? Who knows? But I got my fanny pack. All right, next one, overalls. Oh, yeah, overalls, yeah. All right. Next one, bandanas. All right, bandanas. Not too bad. All right, and our last one, visors. Who wears visors? Who thinks visors are in style? Okay. All right, so these days we find a lot of 90s fashion. You kind of find it kind of cringeworthy. But at the same time, these trends were supported by the icons of the time. So, the stars that we used to watch on television, they used to wear these styles. And one of them was Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. So they had a show from the 90s. I don't know if you guys know that show, if you ever watched it. They actually had a reboot. So even these old shows are coming back in style. But I'm going to show you very quickly some of the styles that they had. So there's some overalls for you. If we can go to the next slide. They're just wearing some casual clothes. So you see one's wearing casual, one's more dressed up. Next slide. You can hardly see it, but it's like a cardigan sweater, but it's buttoned at the top. and then no other buttons are buttoned. That was a style. All right, next one. Oh, vest. So like just wearing the vest, the best part of a suit, that became a style. Next one. Hey, see, rubber boots, those big boots, those are back in style. That was in style in the 90s. Now it's back in style. Raincoats. I literally just got a yellow raincoat. In style. So this is the show. This is the show Full House. So Mary Kate and Ashley, so they're twins, and they both played the character on the show, which was Michelle. She was the youngest and most adorable member of the Tanner family. She was the audience favorite, obviously, and every time she came on the screen, people were like, "Oh, she's so cute," and she had all these sayings that she used to say, and so she was like such a favorite that sometimes you might wonder, like, how did everyone else who played on the show with her feel? Did they feel like they were left out, or did they feel like, it was just hard to be like on the show with her? Because I imagine for the twins, it felt good for them to be the favorite, right? And I'm sure for us, it feels good when we're the favorite. But then it probably doesn't feel so good when you're not the favorite. And that's kind of what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about favoritism. So my question for you guys is what is favoritism? So turn to the person next to you if you're sitting beside someone. If you're socially distanced from someone, turn around or shout, and just take 30 seconds to shout out what you think favoritism is. So just shout it to the person that's closest to you. Okay. So, is it bad to have favorite people? I hear some people saying no. I hear some people saying yes. Here's another question for you. What's the difference between having favorite people and playing favorites? Is there a difference? Is there a difference between having favorite people and playing favorites? Okay, for me, I feel like it's okay to have favorite people because that's healthy. And you can't be best friends with everyone, like you just can't. And you all need like some close friendships. But the favoritism, though, that's when you start excluding people. And that's when it becomes unfair, and that's when it hurts people. And so this matters to God, and so it should matter to us. Favoritism is when you give someone special treatment unfairly at the expense of someone else. Okay? That's what favoritism is. So back to that show, Full House, there's an episode that can help us kind of understand this all. So DJ, which is one of the characters, she becomes the editor of the school newspaper, and she needs to find a classroom like assistant to help write an article. So instead of like choosing the best person, she chooses her best friend Kimmy to write the sports article. So this is a clip about what happens when she gives it to her best friend and shows her favoritism. So as you guys can see, in this episode, playing favorites didn't work out for anyone in that situation. DJ was frustrated, Kimmy was offended, the classmates who would have loved to have written that article themselves, they didn't get a chance to do it. And so, the favoritism doesn't work out. I remember for me, there was a time when I think I was in grade 4, and we had this group. So we had this club, and we used to meet at recess and all that. And every day you had to bring a different, like when it was your turn, you would bring a snack for the entire group. This is when you could share stuff, right? So when it was my turn, I was getting all excited. Every week someone brought like different like chocolates or candies or whatever. So I was telling my mom, and I'm like, okay, you have to get me like some cool candy because I got to bring it. And she's like, why? Because in my house, my mom doesn't give me junk food. And I kept trying to say, because I have to bring it to school. And she's like, why? Why do you need junk food for school? And I'm like, oh, because it's for my friends. And she's like, well, why don't they just get the food themselves? I'm like, no, because I have to share it. So once I said the share part, she's like, oh, okay, sharing is good. She's like, I'm going to get you some grapes. I'm like, grapes? That's not going to go over well. Like, can we just get some candy? And she's like, no. Well, she has an accent. She's like, no, everybody needs to eat healthy. And when they eat healthy, they'll be thanking you. I'm like, Mom, no, don't make me do it. Don't make me do it. So I bring the grapes to school. They kicked me out of the group. Seriously. Like, it would be one thing to not take the grapes. They kicked me out of the group because I didn't bring junk food. So that was an example where I was like excluded from something. And I was actually really bothered by it. I can't remember, because I'm so old now, I can't remember what actually happened, like if we just stopped being friends for the rest of our lives or whatever, or if it was just for like a week or two like it normally is at that age. But I remember at the time, I was really bothered by it. And, like favoritism can really bother people. And that's what we want to be talking about today. The difference between having favorites and playing favorites. Keeping in mind that like God has something to say about it. So I'm going to look at a scripture verse for you. It's Proverbs 22, 1-2. And it says this: choose a good reputation over great riches. Being held in high esteem is better than silver or gold. The rich and poor have this in common: the Lord made them both. The Lord made them both. Like, God notices people. Whatever is going on in your life, whether you're rich or poor or whatever situation you're going through, whether you feel like you're the person who everybody picks and likes, or whether you feel like for some reason you're excluded, I want you to know that God notices you. And God notices that there are people in this world that seem to be in need more than others. And God doesn't play favorites. God doesn't have favorites. But when you do look at the Bible does talk a lot about how like God has a heart for the poor. God has a heart for those who are down and out, right? So if we want to be like what God is like, if we want to be what Jesus is like, then we need to have a heart for those same people. The people that in the world, they tend not to be the favorites in the world. So that's what we want to talk about today. And we're going to break up into our small groups now. But before we do that, I just want you to imagine what would happen if we actually treated everyone like they were made by God. Because everyone is. Like, I want you to imagine what it would be like if everyone was generous with everyone, and especially those who needed it. Like, imagine what your family, your friends, your school, your world would be like if we all treated people this way. And our main point for today is that radical people don't play favorites. Radical people don't play favorites. So you have a paper, you should have a sheet. Everyone grabbed one and a pen. And so as you go to your small groups, that's something that I want you guys to talk about. Because I think it's natural for you to want to show favoritism, but we want to challenge that. And so on the sheet, you'll see some different questions. Have I shown favoritism? Like, is it possible that you've been playing favorites to people and you're not aware of it? This is a chance for you to think back about your week, just starting school, Be curious about the ways that you treat people. Who have I excluded? Have you been spending time with certain people, but not talking to other people? Do you have favorite friends? Which is fine, but is there someone else who you might include who feels excluded? Who have I hurt? Has anyone been harmed by the way that you act? Have you been hurtful or rude or unfair? What have I assumed? We have biases. So we tend to make assumptions based on what we see, right? Like the outward appearance. And in the Bible it says, like, we look at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. And so we judge people a lot of times by what we see on the outside. So I challenge you guys not to make assumptions because of clothes, because of skin color, culture, whatever it might be. And who can I include? When God chooses to love and care for people, that's not favoritism, it's justice. So maybe there's something that's wrong in this world that God is calling you to make right.